because today I'm not going to necessarily be giving you answers. We're operating in 110% uncertainty right now. So getting comfortable with living the questions is our goal. And with that, I'll just start off by kind of stating the obvious. We're in a situation where nature is getting turned into consumer goods. And just a little bit about myself. I grew up born and raised in Tampa, Florida. I went to the University of Florida, got a degree in 2008 in economics, so I was very clearly understood what's really going on. We are living in a world that requires constant growth. So when we talk about lowering our footprint, what we're really talking about is reducing our consumption. But how can the economy continue to grow if consumption declines? So we are on the cusp of a critical economic collapse that is September 23rd, that's when the stock market hit its peak. So we're already past that. We are boldly going into an economic and political climate that we have no real way of knowing how to navigate. So for the last 10 years, since 2008, and seeing kind of the veil lifted from my eyes, I made a decision to go and figure out what is really true, what is really going on in the world. So I moved to China, got to experience that firsthand. So as those goods are coming into Walmart in the US, our pollution is being shifted over to China. And now China's getting higher up on the economic scale, so they're shifting their pollution down to Vietnam and Myanmar. And this is what we're doing is anytime that nature gets extracted, we go to a new place that is pristine and we extract from there. So we are in a very difficult position because how do we create an abundant life using a scarce economic model? Because for every dollar that's printed, we got to pay $1.10 back. So that 10 cents is coming, that's interest, that has to come from nature. Or it comes from your soul, selling your soul to Walmart. So we have to expand what we think of as capital, right? And if we want to talk about who is the wealthiest person here, Rob Greenfield has the most social capital out of everybody because the new economy is likes, shares, follows, followers, and we're broadening what we value. So what I'm going to focus on today is right in the middle there, the living capital, because everything rests on that. Because if we don't have good soil, if we don't have good water, we don't have anything on top of that. So how do we create an economic model that is regenerative and that is closed? So this is the loop. We're all in this one big closed loop, and there's lots of little loops inside the big loop. But what we're really talking about with climate change and global warming is the ice caps melting. So ice caps melt, game over, this whole global water conveyor belt shuts down. So when the water stops flowing, we get really dehydrated, no rainfall, no crops, no nothing. So our goal here is to how do we protect this homeostasis? Okay, so going and looking back and looking forward, how do we manage the global water commons in a way that's equitable? So I've done some research and I've kind of come up with these kind of guidelines for how do we manage the water commons at the global level as well as at the local level, because this is an individual action that everybody has to take because we all have interactions with water. So what is the appropriate interaction? So mutual monitoring and tracking of supply, we need rules and we need to be able to enforce those rules. And I'm talking about like village level, right? Just go way back and you have, you know, an irrigation for your rice field, right? Everybody has to be managing that because if, you know, I was in Bali over the summer and they have a system where the religion is tied into how they manage their water supply for their rice fields. And just thinking, wow, if we had Swift mud was actually a religion, what would that look like? Look like hell. Okay, so we need a chain of command. I'm just gonna go through these real quickly. Shared understanding of desired outcome. Real-time measurement to determine success of outcome. So what is that water? Where is the water? How much water do we have? And then we need an algorithm that makes continual adjustments. When I talk about algorithms, you know, we can talk about software, but we also are running continual algorithms in our head. It's basically a decision tree. How do we make decisions based off of past experiences? So, you know, do we want to go back to, you know, why haven't we had a nuclear bomb? Because our global algorithm is telling us if you drop that bomb, bad things will happen. So that's why we haven't had a third world war, because we know bad things happen when you drop bombs. Some people forgot that. Okay, so read a really powerful book over the summer called Designing Regenerative Cultures. I'm twisting that a little bit to designing regenerative currencies, but when we're looking at like global scale, and we're also looking at individual hyper-local watershed, we're working on multiple levels, multiple spheres of problems. So this three horizons thinking helps us to understand at what levels we can be working on, because we can be doing stuff here and now that's going to have lasting impact, that's going to be in line with where we want to go. So horizon one is like right here, right now, lights on, how do we keep the water running? Horizon two, disruptive innovation, identifies opportunities to change the scope of what is possible. So this is how I'm dividing the talk today. We're going to start with Horizon 1, Horizon 2, Horizon 3, and then go back to Horizon 1. So Horizon 3 is like, wait, we can't even see it. It's kind of barely poking out, but we know in our hearts what is possible. It's how do we get there? And, okay, so Horizon 1, we're talking like 1 to 10 years. What can we do today? And this is what we're facing. We're facing hurricanes. Hurricanes are not the problem, hurricanes are the solution. We should be looking at hurricanes as a way to harvest water, right? Because a hurricane comes, that's dropping a year's worth of water supply on your head. You didn't have to go out and get it, you didn't have to pump it. It's a gift being given to you. This is also the other issue that it's not two separate problems, it's one problem, right? Because that water falls, it's taking all that crap that oil and it's taking it out through the estuaries and it's causing cyanobacteria to populate. And once again, this necessarily isn't a problem. This is an opportunity where we can be using beneficial life in our waterways to be cleaning the water. Okay, so what can we be doing at the home level, individually? So this is a system that was put in place last year in cooperation with Kendrick from Newman Nursery. Some of you may know him. But thinking of what is the immediate impact. So look at this residential house. There's 5 rain cubes, and a rain cube is 1 cubic meter of water. And that's just an easy way, 1 cubic meter, 1,000 liters, it's like this. Okay, to scale. So this isn't even, this is like 10% of what's possible to capture, right? So if we have a big, 3-inch rain event, we have overflow. This is over 1,000 gallons. And when we start looking at like how much water we're collecting, we automatically come into a situation of how do we manage it. So this is just what it looks like in the ground. And Bill, you have a beautiful setup that you put in over time. And with these cubes, with the protection from the sun, how long have you had them?
Over 10 years.
Okay. And how are they functioning today?
Fine.
Okay, great. 1 to 10 years. Horizon 1, we got it. So everybody put cubes on your house. That's easy enough to do, right? But not so easy, right? Who's got the money? Where's the money? We're all struggling in this financial economy of scarcity, so even trying to get $1,000 to put in a rainwater harvesting system can be too much for some people. So this is kind of the economics today. To put in 1 gallon of water will cost you about $1 if you do it yourself. So what I'm focusing on right now is just training, educating, just getting as much information out as possible to train people so that you have a house, you have a roof, you can tap this into your gutter and you can start harvesting rainwater today. If you want to pay a professional, it's $1. I'm sorry? Okay. If you want to put in a 1 liter and pay a professional, it's about $1. But once again, this is a regenerative business enterprise, so that's a great job to have. But we can do better because it's not about dollars. What this is about embodied water cost. So with those rain cubes, we're growing moringa. Each gram of moringa, or whatever, tomatoes, papayas, pineapples, everything that's growing, even I'm a walking human water sack. I have an embodied water cost. I need a certain amount of water per day to keep myself moving. So we can do the calculations to say how much water do we actually need. So this is a cash crop to sell embodied water to bring in funding to build the infrastructure. Because right now our biggest problem is 1, we have an infrastructure issue. Okay, so we're looking at Horizon 2. Now we're getting technical. So this is IoT, Internet of Things, or Intelligence of Things. And I'll go through this very briefly, but there are very cheap computers, $5 to basically get like power of this laptop slimmed down. So on top of that rain cube is a computer that is monitoring water coming in and it's monitoring water going out. So we digitized, instead of me having to go out there physically with myself and my eyeballs to go and look at what is going on in there, we have real-time information that's helping us make better decisions in real time. And then I can list the web app features, works on your phone, works on your desktop. Is it gonna rain? If there's a big storm event coming, maybe I wanna flush my tanks and give some more capacity to the water that's coming in. So the first iteration is attaching it to a garden irrigation system. So who here is familiar with Rainbird or any of these other controllers? Okay, that's a dumb system. It's not necessarily connected to the internet, but it's just localized on your house. So this plugs into a pump. You can put it into the solenoids, but this is just an easy way to maximize your rainwater harvesting. Okay, so once again, how much water do I have? How much water am I using? How much water will I have? When should I water next? These are all questions that once we digitize this information, we're having a computer help us make these decisions, because we have other things we want to do with our time, like cook dinner. Okay, so this is just what the web app looks like. This is just a graphical user interface, and this changes over time depending on how the users interact with the application. So anybody here think back to what Facebook looked like 10 years ago? Okay, so over time, as more people interact with the platform, it grows and emerges to what it actually needs. So this is, I just want to put that out there, so we get to a place where because we have the information in real time. Bill's got a bunch of water, and I'm not as smart as Bill at managing my water, so I'm already out. We're 3 months into the dry season. Bill's stacked with water. He's got too much. I'm dry. Is there a way that I could somehow work out an arrangement with Bill to be trading water? So we've just untapped the potential of your roof. So just like Airbnb or Uber, you got a car, you got a spare bedroom, that becomes an unlocked economic resource. And this is social because it's like, okay, who wants to work, right? I just want to play, I just want to hang out with my friends, and I want to do fun stuff. So this is a way to turn the work into play. And that's the real key. And the reason why we haven't seen these certain technologies really proliferate is because they haven't gotten the social aspect right. And when we're talking about permaculture, there's a whole side of social permaculture of people care, future care, that is critically important. All right, Horizon 3, here's where it gets really fun. So this is available right now. This is already a platform in development, and some of you may have heard of Bitcoin, or Litecoin, or not. Right, we're working with dollars today. I would say digital currencies, because they're non-interest bearing currency. They don't have that interest that you have to pay back. And I just want to try and give an analogy that everybody can kind of tap into. When blogging came around, everybody now has the potential to be their own printing press, right? How much does it cost for you to put a photo on your blog? Or how much does it cost for you to send a post on Facebook? It costs next to nothing. What you're paying for is you're paying for server costs and that energy requirement. Currently, centralized database storage is Facebook's got a whole, they have multiple locations around the planet, and it's a very, it's centralized one. So if I put something on Facebook that violates their terms of agreement, they can cut me out. So who here has had like something on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter blocked? Okay, I don't think we're radical enough here. But this happens oftentimes, and even when you say like, okay, Mosaic is doing inappropriate things with our nature, they can come down and they can say, okay, well, Facebook, we don't like what these organizers are doing, you need to shut them down. So this is a problem with centralized data infrastructure. What Ethereum and blockchain represents is permissionless, borderless, and near zero cost transactions. So if I want to print my own money, like let's say a raindrop falls into that tank. A raindrop is minted, a digital raindrop that represents the physical asset. So I'm going to go through a list of things that we can do with this digital technology. We can create tokens, and we can assign any value we want. It could be 1 liter of water, it could be 1 pound of compost. You could be getting paid for your poop. We can write smart contracts. So anything that's administrative, anything that has something to do with paper pushing or any type of, I need to stamp this, a smart contract will execute if certain conditions are met. So let's say I put a token and I pay it to that rain cube, a smart contract execute, and then it pumps out a liter of water. Okay, dApps, decentralized applications. So once again, if your Facebook gets shut down because you're posting controversial material, that can't happen with dApps. Decentralized autonomous organizations. Let's say a company gets formed, nobody owns that company. It's totally decentralized. It's totally autonomous. It's just running on software code. And then finally, this is where we're trying to get to. A gamification gift economy where instead of saying more for me is less for you, we are getting into this win-win where it's more for more. So we get to a situation where we have enough infrastructure, rainwater infrastructure, so that there's no more paying for water. You get paid to consume the water because our whole goal in all of this is to balance the water supply at the local and bioregional and global levels. Okay, so this is the structure that I've come up with on how do we really take this to scale, because this is our issue here, scalability. How quickly can we scale? Because we're working on a very limited timeline. So we have to make this equitable for everybody. But not everybody is a technical developer, so there's a RainCube core, it's open source, and this is maintaining the application, and then each watershed is going to have their own cooperative. So the cooperative is run by the people who are installing and operating the RainCubes. So I'm going to talk about two different token setups. So we're talking about money here, right? So money has different uses: store of value, medium of exchange, unit of account. So according to the Securities and Exchange Commission, if I want to sell a share of a company, that's regulated by the SEC. And only certain accredited investors can put that money in. So there's a rain coin, which is used to finance the infrastructure. So if people out there who's got $1 million or Bill Gates says, okay, I want to start funding this, they can purchase these rain coins, and that is used to incentivize. It creates a pool of liquidity. So if I have a rain cube and a roof, I can plug that in and start earning money because there is a pool of liquidity provided by that rain coin. And then the second one is raindrops, and this is a utility token that's actually used to exchange the physical water. That's not regulated by the SEC. Okay, so where do we go from here? This is the currency life cycle. So we're starting at 1. So in the blue we have raindrops, which is a utility token, which you use to exchange for the water, and then on the red we have the rain coin, which is a security token, the equity token. So we start off with one rain cube, so we have 1,000 liters of harvesting capacity. That water is really expensive comparatively because we have such a limited supply. Now, and also too, that rain coin, that equity token is worth nothing because the network is so small. However, as the network expands, the value of the network increases, as we can see on the right and the red. And as the network expands, the marginal cost to produce the water drops to near zero. And once we go past near zero, then we're getting paid universal basic water income to manage that water. So we're looking at 10x the water, 10 times the quality, 10 times the fun at 1/10 the cost. This is what happens when we digitize things. We can democratize the data, open it up so that everybody gets access, real-time information, because we talk about free markets, but that's not what's really going on. Free market is where everybody has access to the same information so we can be making the most intelligent decisions. Okay, so back to, so we've just gone to Horizon 3. Now we're standing and looking even farther because, you know, the way that the internet is built right now, it's not sustainable. The way that we manufacture electronics is not sustainable. Even the infrastructure, even these IBC totes, that's not sustainable either. So what am I looking at? When I look far into the future, I'm looking at, we're actually mushrooms. We're passing digital information through mycelium networks. Water actually holds a shape. So you can input memories stored in water. So basically the ice caps are just like global data banks. Creating trees that actually what are trees but solar panels? So somehow tapping into that, enzyme energy storage, and then finally, I think when I look at all of this, the Earth is a conscious entity. It's like a thing. It's a super intelligent organism, and I think of water as the brain. So, building this digital interconnected network, it's basically building another form of augmented intelligence because it's not artificial intelligence. And it's not human intelligence, it's two of the combined with the whole, because when I look at the Earth, I think of humans as just gut bacteria, and we're all kind of on the planet, doing little things and making exchanges and kind of creating the conditions conducive to life. We're breaking things down, we're building things up. So what I see is the world is acting through us to create the world that it wants to be. So the world wants to self-actualize. We are here to do that. Thank you. We can say, you know, how much water do we need? We have 10 billion people by 2050. So if everybody has a cube, maybe it's not a cube, maybe it's like, you know, just a cistern, whatever. We need to build about 10 trillion liters of water storage capacity by 2050, because ideally we're just working on rainwater and groundwater. Okay, collective inquiry. And once again, I don't necessarily have all the answers. Collectively, we can come to an agreement of what is appropriate.
That was fast and furious, thank you. So if I have water stored and somebody else wants it, how do I get it to them?
Asia and other developing countries have a really fascinating network of e-bike delivery gallons. So they'll put the 5 gallons on both sides of the bike and just drive it out. But otherwise, like people right now in California or wherever are paying a lot of money to have trucks come in and ship their water. So I could potentially come to your house, and that creates even something more valuable, which is trust in our community. Or it can be somehow like a drone comes and picks it up. I don't know, this is just thinking farther along, but trying to avoid underground centralized piping. Like that's the problem, because it's just too expensive to maintain. And these cubes are transportable. Those IBC totes, those are the global standard for shipping liquid around. But we do not want to be shipping rainwater around the world. We want to be consuming it as close to the source as possible.
I was going to say bikes at work, cargo trailers have like 300-pound capacity. It's actually really easy to transport stuff on.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just also too the physical benefits of just being outside. Fleet farming is already paving the way with how to get around and do things effectively on bicycles.
What did you say that RAIN stand for? Balancing RAIN?
Augmented Intelligence Network.
Can you expand on that? And can you also expand on the, what is it, mycelium, internet, and enzyme?
Yeah, so this is just what I'm thinking, because when we get to Horizon 3, right, we start back all over to Horizon 1. I'm trying to think like out of the box on what is the type of technology that we want to be using that's based in nature. So I can't really give you any, I mean, I can just like some ideas that I have in my head, but there really is, if you want to look into like mushroom, like how does trees transmit information and nutrients between other trees using the underground mycelium network? How can we tap into that to be creating broadband mycelium? Drugs. Well, so here's another interesting point. Stoned ape theory, which basically suggests that humans expanded their consciousness by eating these mushrooms. So if we look at the internet, like the internet of mushrooms, the internet as it exists today, we are eating the information from the internet mushrooms. So we are expanding our consciousness and becoming a global community in real time. So this is never, I mean, maybe it's happened before and that civilization collapsed and we don't even know about it, but we're here today and we are in a very interesting time because we've never had more access to information before. Yes?
Psilocybin mushrooms?
I'm sorry?
Psilocybin mushrooms?
Psilocybin mushrooms, we should declassify that as a Schedule 1, absolutely.
We happen to be using the same sort of network system like the internet is related to that.
What was the question? Repeat the question.
The question is, well, here.
So I think he's trying to say that in a way the internet as a network relates to the way that mycelium interact underground through communication with each other. And I think the follow-up to that is that with Terence McKenna's stoned ape theory, how we originally expanded our consciousness and step into the human consciousness using mycelium. In a similar way, now we're using the internet, which relates to mycelium, apparently in a communications way. We're using that tool to expand our consciousness.
Yes.
Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, and the definition of love is the expansion of self beyond yourself, right? So inclusion of others. And what is social media helping us to do? It's helping us to connect. And if there's something like, if there's a famine in Africa, we can connect with that on a more emotional level because we're getting these images. Or if somebody is disrespected and some video goes viral, we are responding to that in real time because we can understand that pain, we feel that pain. And that's what's happening around us, is as the earth is being consumed into capital, we are feeling that pain. And it gets too painful that we say, okay, enough is enough, right? So I've been working on this for a long time. Now we're starting to get ready because we want the pain to stop. And the way to get over the pain is to eliminate the idea that you are separate from me, because we are all in this together.
Now, what exactly did you mean by leaflet solar panels and mycelium internet?
So I'm not going to give an answer because the challenge of living in uncertain times is to go and seek more information. So it's, well, yeah, I mean, well, how do we want it to be? What kind of currency do we want? What kind of currency does water want? What kind of currency does soil want? Like when we start looking into soil and we start seeing all these interactions that are taking place, all the microbial life, we're just looking at an economy. So we can start to map our economy, our goods and services economy, to what's happening naturally. So by creating a regenerative kind of currency that precipitates and evaporates, like that's how water works. So we should be designing a currency that works like that. I'm sorry, you have a tough job. I'm laying a lot of new vocabulary. In the back, Jack.
Yeah, let's say so what's like a practical way I could like clean out my like Range Rover?
Yeah, just flush it. Tilt it. You can get in a pressure washer. And YouTube is a fantastic resource for information. The only thing is you probably don't have 20 hours to go filter through all the YouTube videos on how to get the gunk out of your junk. So what I'm working on right now is to create a very compact, very concise kind of like what you need to do to get like rain prepared. So while the IoT system is getting developed, while the blockchain is getting developed, the Horizon 2, Horizon 3, we're working right now on the Horizon 1 to increase awareness and education. And some people may already be well above, like, Bill, man, you're ready to go, Horizon 3 right now. I've been over to your house. Well, I'm going to slap an app on that. Go ahead, Stefan.
So in this last year, Johannesburg almost ran out of water.
Yeah, day zero.
And the entire city kind of got together and was conserving water. Do you see this as being something you could work on with cities that maybe are about to experience something like a day zero?
Yeah, the problem is the way we have the water system right now is because the central water utilities want to preserve their place. Also, too, what we see happen in places where water scarcity starts to uptick is you have a huge gray market of highly inflated water prices. Because they're having to ship it, and then they're price gouging. So we're going to get to a situation, like even after the hurricanes, you can't find bottled water, but it's falling on your head by the inch. So this is a totally like flipped around like economic situation where we can't get to that abundance if we're still in the scarcity mindset. So there comes a position where, okay, great, hurricane hits, I have my cubes, neighbors, I'm sharing the abundance, and I'm getting social capital because everybody in the village recognizes that I was the one that gave it. And traditionally, that's how it has worked. It hasn't just been, I give you a gift, and somehow the universe comes back to me. No, you go to a wedding in China, you give a red envelope, they'll take it out, they'll put it on a ledger, so that when your wedding comes down, you know who you gave what to who, and you're expected to bring it back, because the true definition of community is mutual survival. So we're on this planet together, we're just one global community, we all gotta survive together, and that's what's really bringing us together. It's not like, oh, you know, we got some similar interests. It's like, no, we have to like live peacefully, and that's our challenge. And and it's not technical, it's a cultural situation that we have.
The analogy comes to how we built the electric network in the United States. That was a lot of small farmers and grids, and they managed to find a way to connect themselves up into a network. Given up on the fact that independent water utilities might connect so that water could literally flow from Maine to Florida, Florida to Maine?
Well, I think this has to be bottom-up, grassroots, like everybody on the individual conscious level has to make the shift internally before we can start building anything on a larger scale. So I can't go around the world like building these things. So China is doing something similar. They're doing a north to south water diversion, south to north water diversion project, which is going to end cataclysmically for them because they're messing with the hydrological cycle, and it's just something where they're not looking at the fundamental problem, they're just trying to engineer their way out of it. So if we try and engineer our way out of this, we're just going to end up with new boss, same as the old boss, right? Nestle's going to come in, or they're going to, like, it's just going to be an extractive economy, so we all have to, get to work. Yeah, okay. That's right. Yeah, my email, anthony@raincube.io. I'm happy to talk about this more. There's a Facebook page. Just any questions, come and talk to me. But we can just be doing the low-tech stuff now, and we can work our way to the high-tech. Just don't get overwhelmed.
Wants to stay and continue discussion with Anthony, that's perfect. We're also going to be starting fermenting outside.
Yeah, just let these ideas ferment for a little bit.
Thank
you, brother. Thank you.